This is also from the CBC .ca. This is nearly 15,000 Canadians died between 2023 and 2024. Okay? I've been picking on Canada a lot, but that's because the only continent I care about is the North American one. Okay? As far as I'm concerned, everybody else I don't really care. Doesn't matter to me at all. And Canada needs to become part of the United States. So we need to fix this shit because there are many, tens of thousands of people are dying every single year. Okay, they're estimating that since 2018, there's been 75,000 deaths in Canada alone from people who need surgery but can't get it because the lines are too long. And now they're outsourcing it. So this is saying nearly 15,000 Canadians died between 2023 and 2024 alone. Okay, just waiting for surgeries. Let's see what they have to say about it.
For 6 years, SecondStreet.org has gathered government data on patients waiting for health services in Canada. Over the course of a year, roughly 15,000 patients in Canada died while waiting for surgeries or diagnostic scans. Harrison Fleming is the Director of Policy and Legislative Affairs at SecondStreet.org. It's a think tank that examines government policies and the effect they have on Canadian lives. Harrison, good afternoon.
Thank you so much for having me on today.
So tell me about how you got this data.
Well, what we do is we actually send Freedom of Information requests to every provincial government, healthcare authority, a hospital or healthcare provider across the country. And so we're really banking on answers from government to be able to compile this data. And unfortunately, the number that you mentioned, as staggering as that is with more than 15,000 people, it's not even the full number because Quebec.
Yeah, because we already covered this. A lot of the provinces are not actually reporting these numbers. But yeah, no, it's retarded to say that I'm spewing fake news as a Russian bot when clearly tens of thousands of people are dying every year, and that's not debatable. This is just happening. And the numbers that we do have are likely less than what the real numbers are because we only have a certain, we don't have 100% of the provinces actually recording this data. So this is just from the provinces that we do have. It says 75,000 people thus far. I'm thinking it's probably 150,000 people in the last 5-6 years that have died under this healthcare system.
Newfoundland and Labrador, most of Manitoba, and for the first time that we've been doing this report, now Alberta did not provide any data for this. And so if you look at that data that we do get from provinces and you sort of see those trends and extrapolate that across the jurisdictions which didn't respond, we actually see a number that's closer to 28,000 people.
Okay, so between 2023 and 2024, they have reported 15,000, but it's likely closer to 23,000. Oh, damn.
And just to clarify, or if you can clarify, when we talk about 15,000 people dying while waiting for healthcare, you aren't suggesting that the wait times are necessarily related to the deaths, correct?
So certainly in some cases that has happened, but because governments actually don't track this data on purpose, we don't know much more than these patients died while waiting for healthcare. So certainly, if someone is scheduled for a knee op.
Yeah, it seems to be what do you mean? We don't know whether or not they died because they were waiting for too long. No, they fucking died because they had to wait for a heart surgery. This Deborah Fuster, the lady that died and then came about this whole Debbie's Law bullshit that's happening in Canada. She died because she was told she needed a triple bypass heart surgery, but then that she would have to wait until maybe the end of the month, maybe early next month. And then mid next month, she died before ever seeing the doctor to get the surgery. They moved really fast to diagnose her, not so fast with the whole correcting the issue thing. And that's really the most important part of the healthcare issue. The correction.
And they're sadly struck by a bus crossing a street, they're still counted in the same data metric as a person who is on a wait list for 7 months and then passes away from a heart attack. And so one of the challenges that we find with this data is that governments, as I said, don't track it on purpose. And so if we look, for example, at the government of Nova Scotia, which for years has actually done a really good job at tracking this, they have been able to break it down into deaths that were not only over a recommended wait time, but deaths that likely came from, or pardon me, that wait times that contributed to deaths. So we see that tracking is possible because we've seen it from Nova Scotia. They sadly backslid a little bit this year. And so what we really need to get the true data to understand the full picture is to get this data from government so they can actually governments should actually purposely track this data so that we can get and understand the scope of the problem.
Okay. And in terms of wait times, how did BC compare to the other provinces?
Well, wait times are pretty rough right across the country. In fact, we have a website called canadawaits.ca where you can see more than 3.2 million Canadians waiting for health.
It is funny that they're talking about wait times in British Columbia. Hang on. I want to show you guys something. Hang on. So this here, right behind my face here. One of the more later articles says that doctor shortages closing British Columbia ERs, some people's only healthcare option. That means that like there's a bunch of ERs in British Columbia on at least on October 14th anyway. There's a bunch of ERs in British Columbia that are closing and forcing people to not have access to healthcare anymore because those ERs aren't open anymore. So I'm just saying it's funny that they're talking about that because there's other articles apparently that are pointing out that there's a bunch of fucking ERs closing because there aren't enough doctors, which makes the waiting list super high. That's so I just wanted to point that out. Sorry.
Healthcare right now, and so BC, like everywhere else, faces these same types of challenges. Specifically around diagnostic exams, we see wait lists of over 6 months for something as basic as an MRI and something as important as an MRI. I mean, we're talking about an early diagnosis for something that, if it's delayed, can have serious consequences. And so those types of a half a year wait list for something as important as that is just unacceptable. And we've seen that's one of the contributing factors as to why about 4,500 people in BC between diagnostic exams and surgery lost their lives last year.
Yeah.
What are some...
They move really fast to get you diagnosed. They just don't move well. It's not that they don't move fast. I don't think they're doing it intentionally. I just think they have too much backlog and not enough people to handle it because there's only so much money to go around. So if you hire more doctors, because there's only so much money, you'll have to pay those doctors less. And those doctors don't want to get hired at hospitals that will pay them less than what they could get at other places. This is why the privatized healthcare system just works better.
Some of the solutions that you would propose to improve this situation?
Right. So one thing that we do know is healthcare funding across the country continues to not only grow, but grow past the rate of inflation. And so a lot of people who think that maybe just some more money next year will fix the problem, well, we haven't seen that happen yet. And so what Second Street really takes some time to do.
Listen, we have to get past this idea of just throwing money at a problem until it goes away. That's not how it works. That's not how money works.
Do is to look around the world at other countries that offer universal public healthcare systems. So that's places where you can go to the doctor and not worry about having to pay anything. And we ask, what are those countries doing better than what we're doing? And we see a couple of things. The first is something called the Cross-Border Directive, and we see that in the European Union. And essentially what that says is if you're on a wait list for a necessary healthcare procedure, a doctor has said you need a healthcare procedure, and you can't get it within a recommended wait time, well, you can actually travel to another country and you can get that surgery done. So, for example, if you're in Sweden and you need a knee surgery done and you can't because there's a wait list in Sweden, you can fly to Germany and get that surgery done there. And then your government would reimburse you for up to what that surgery cost at home. So
see? That's what I was talking about. They're outsourcing patients to privatized healthcare systems because they don't have enough doctors to handle them in the socialist healthcare systems. It's almost like one of these systems is set up to actually provide healthcare to everybody and incentivize more doctors to show up and like do things. And another one is incentivized to collect money from the taxpayer What? Look, in a privatized healthcare system, these hospitals compete, right? Which incentivizes them to keep their standard of care high. When you have a government-operated healthcare system that is like funded publicly with taxpayer funds, there is no incentive for them to compete at all. They don't have to give you a high standard of care because where else are you gonna go? So now they're forced unless they just want their citizens to die, which is what has been happening, they're forced to outsource them to privatized healthcare systems like we have in the United States. And Canada is sending tens of thousands of people to hospitals in New York, in Pennsylvania, in Wisconsin, in Michigan, right? Because they have to. They don't have an option.
Essentially what you're doing is you're taking the existing amount of money that you'd spend on a patient, and you're using that to get them healthcare faster. And so that's a really great innovation that we're seeing come out of Europe. They've been doing that since 2011. Yep. And in Canada, we could do that between provinces, and we can look at other jurisdictions internationally to try to get people stuck.
They are doing it. So this was put out on January 20th. They are doing it now.
On wait lists, care faster.
Right.
Another thing that we see actually being done in one province in Canada, it's being done in Quebec right now, and it's also being done across the world, in Europe, in Australia, and so many other places. And that's called activity-based funding. So right now, hospitals are funded at the start of the year, basically with one big grant that you see in a provincial budget. And so what that means is that every patient that walks through that door actually costs that hospital money to treat. Well, with activity-based funding, you sort of flip that incentive structure on the head. So when a patient walks in the hospital, that hospital is going to get paid for the services they're providing to that patient. We've seen it work in Quebec. They're getting...
Okay, hold on. Paid for the services that they provide to the patient. It's almost like they want to have a privatized healthcare system with extra steps. Like they want a privatized healthcare system, but they want the government to be the one that owns the hospital. Do you see how this works? Like, take it to its logical end, and that's what it is. Right now, it's all government-funded healthcare, but they want to switch it, and they're calling it an activity-based funding system, right? Where instead of at the beginning of the year, all hospitals get the exact same amount of money, they're going to get money based on the amount of activity that they have, and they're going to, well, actually, they will get money based on the care that they provide to each patient, right? So if you're a patient that comes in and you need something done, then the government will give that hospital the money to pay for the thing that you needed done. It's almost like it's a federally run privatized healthcare system. That's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like the American healthcare system, not a socialized one with extra steps.
26% more people through the door, and it's actually cost 7%.
You have a privatized healthcare system, then all of these hospitals get paid activity-based funding, and the government's not involved. And if you don't go to the hospital, you don't have to pay. But in the socialist system, if you don't go to the hospital, you are still paying for medical bills because it's taken out of your taxes.
% less to the...
Call me crazy. I want to keep the money that I earn.
Healthcare system. Wow. And so we know there's ideas like this that can work and help.
And if I need it to pay for medical bills, then I'll do that. But if I don't need to pay for medical bills, then I'd like to keep it.
Bring wait times down, and that's without even amending the Canada Health Act. Both of these ideas that I just mentioned are literally something that can be done basically by either a ministerial order or, again, just changing the way during the budgetary process as to how hospitals are funded. Okay. These are two quick solutions that could be implemented almost tomorrow.
Okay.
And we'd love to see some activity there. We also look at some public-private partnerships that we see a couple provinces engaging in, whether that's for MRIs or for surgeries. And we see those are ways to bring down.
Dude, in country, they're outsourcing it to privatized systems. What are we doing? Why is this even an argument? The socialist healthcare system sucks.
Some wait times. And then there's also doing what every other jurisdiction that offers public health care in the world does, which is allow there to be some private care delivery within that country. And I know that's sort of a scary word when we hear that in Canada, because we know our healthcare system is sort of one of the things that is this great identifying, unifying parts of our Canadian identity.
We do hold our hat on that. We were nearing the end of time, but I do want to read to you, Harrison, when we reached out to the BC Ministry of Health for a response to your brief. In part, the Minister of Health, Josie Osborne, wrote, "I empathize with patients and families who are waiting for important medical procedures.
I empathize. I just don't care.
Any wait feels too long. We know more needs to be done. Our government is working hard to recruit skilled staff, increase operating room hours, and add diagnostic imaging equipment." As I mentioned, we're nearly out of time, but what are your initial thoughts on that?
You know, it's sort of similar that we hear the same sentiment from ministries across the country. Yeah. And I totally believe that is exactly how they are feeling. But at the end of the day, feelings aren't action. And we have some really credible ideas to help bring those.
It's all just pandering, my guy. Like, you understand, it's just pandering.
Wait time.
They're going to promise the world, and then they won't deliver it. It's the same thing that happens with the Democratic Party in the United States, right? Like, they create a problem, and then they campaign on fixing that problem, and then when they get elected, they don't fix the problem, so that next campaign cycle they can run again on fixing the problem that they created 2 cycles ago, right? Like, that's what they're doing here. They're saying, oh, this is a problem that we need to fix, and then once you elect them, they're going to be, well, just wait. You know, we're not gonna fix it yet. You know, it's the typical like, I'm gonna put forth this 5-year plan, even though my administration's only here for 4 years, which means that in order to get this plan done, you need to elect me a second time, and if you don't, then well, we just didn't have time to complete it. It's just it's wordplay, it's pandering, it's fucking political posturing, it's bullshit, right?
Down and get people the care they need. So I hope the minister's open to some innovation, because we have some ideas that are ready to go.
Awesome. Harrison, sorry to rush you there, but thank you so much for this look at an important topic.
Really appreciate being on tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, really, really, really appreciate that. That's awesome. Cool. So anyway, yeah, I am not a Russian bot. I have, in fact, never been to Russia. I don't want to ever go to Russia. It sounds like a shithole. I am all for America, and the stuff that I say is not fake news. It's just uncomfortable news for you to deal with, and I don't really care, because the truth is the truth, whether it hurts your feelings or not, whether it makes you feel bad or not, whether you hate the United States, whether you hate capitalism, whether you hate Trump or not, your healthcare system sucks. Private healthcare is much better. Now, again, we can have a conversation about whether or not the prices are inflated in the American private healthcare system. That's a different conversation. Prices are inflated, but you can be seen. And if you can't, you can go somewhere that you can be, because there are enough hospitals and enough doctors to care for them, because you are incentivized to become a fucking doctor, and you are incentivized to build a hospital if you would like. Anyway, so that's just what I wanted to say. I am super proud that I am now officially a Russian bot on X, and you know, I just it's a crowning achievement in my life. This is definitely a milestone in my streaming and my YouTube career, and I am one step closer to pissing off a lot more people, right? Which is going to be great. Anyway, subscribe to me on X at @real_Sestill, because, again, I make based opinions that people don't like, and I do not care. They are the most based opinions on the internet. If you watch videos on YouTube, you can find me at Sestill. If you watch videos on Rumble because you don't like YouTube, then you can find me at Sestill. And I stream once a week right here on Kick every Sunday between 8:30 and 9 o'clock p.m. where I am. Anyway, follow me on the things. Bye, guys.